Okay, hi and welcome to another edition of Hacking Maths. Today we're going to use the quadratic formula to solve a quadratic. Now, if you remember, all quadratics take the form ax squared plus bx plus c, where a is the coefficient of x squared, b is the coefficient of x, and c is the number on its own. Now, it's fairly straightforward to solve this. To solve a quadratic, we just have to set things up correctly. So let's start, and we're going to go with this question. So we have 2x squared minus 5x minus 6 equals 0. Now we should write down our ABCs like we've done in any of the previous videos that you've seen. So A is equal to 2, B is equal to negative 5, C is equal to negative 6. Now you should factorize first. Should try and factorize. It's actually much easier, much simpler to do. However, if you're unable to factorize, then we need to use the formula. So first of all, we'll check to see if we can factorize. So AC equals negative 12. That means we're looking for two numbers that multiply to make 12. 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4, and then it would be 4 and 3, and so we're repeating. So can I make negative 5 using any of these pairs? So 1 and 12, I can make 11 or 13, so that's discounted. 2 and 6, I can make 4 or 8, so that's discounted. 3 and 4, I can make 1 or 7, so that's discounted. So that means there is no way to factorize this, so we have to use the formula. Now the formula is written down at the top here. However, what I like to do first of all is work out the discriminant, and the discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. Now, it is much better to work this out separately and then substitute the answer to this into the formula. The discriminant can take three values. The discriminant can be greater than 0, and that means there are two distinct solutions. That means we get two different solutions. It can be equal to 0, and that means we get one repeated solution. Or it can be less than 0, which means there are no solutions. You should check to make sure that your discriminant is either greater than 0 or equal to 0. If it's less than 0, the chances are you've made a mistake in your calculation. You want to go back, check it again, and make sure that you've done things correctly. However, if you follow the method that I'm showing you just now, it should make a lot of sense. So here we've got our ABCs. So if we take our B, which is negative 5, and we write squared, minus 4, and then AC, which is negative 12. So negative 5 squared. Now, depending on whether or not you're allowed to use a calculator. If this is in a calculator exam, what I've written there, I would write directly into the calculator exactly as written there, and then just press enter or equals, and that will give me the correct answer. However, if you don't have a calculator, then you need to work things out carefully. Negative 5 squared is 25. Negative 4 times negative 12 is positive 48. And then when we add these two together, we get 73. Now that means that we have, this is greater than 0, so we have two distinct roots. That means we have two different roots. Okay? So we can use this now with the formula. So let's take our formula. So our formula was x equals negative b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. Notice how I write it out. This is how you should write it out when you go to use it, all over 2a. So it says negative b. So we write negative, and whatever the value for b is goes inside these parentheses. B is negative 5, so we put that inside. Plus minus, now if you're not sure what that means, we'll deal with that in a second. However, just write that down. Then it's the square root of what b squared minus 4ac is. Now we've worked this out. We said it was 73, so we can just write 73 here. and then it's all divided by 2 times, and a, if we just scroll up a little, a was 2, 2 times 2. So this is what you should be looking at before you begin to actually calculate things. Now, part of the reason why I like to do the discriminant, the b squared minus 4ac, separately, is that if you make a mistake, you haven't written out the formula. You've worked it out, you've got it nice and separately on the left-hand side of the page there, and it's very easy for you to fix any mistakes that you have before you start working with the formula. So if you had a negative number there, we would stop at this point and say there are no solutions. However, if it equaled 0, or as it's greater than 0 in this case, we would continue on. So let's tidy up everything in this. So we have negative 5, which gives me positive 5, plus minus the square root of 73 all over 4. Now, this allows us to continue on down here. I always like to pretend that I'm not going to be able to use a calculator, so I work this out fully and easily, and then use the calculator at the last point if that's what I need to do. So this actually tells me then I have x is equal to 5 plus the square root of 73 all over 4, or x is equal to 5 minus the square root of 73 all over 4. So that's the two choices we have, and depending on how the question asks, if the question wants it left as a surd, we can leave it like this. Or what we can do is we can work out what the square root of 73 is, and that would be because 5 plus 8.544 all over 4, or 5 minus 8.544 all over 4. And we can continue working through this, and this gives me 13.544 all over 4, and this one gives me minus 3.544. This gives a final answer of 3.386, and this is equal to negative 0.886, and just remember that's being divided by 4 as well. Okay, so that's us actually solve this. We can see we have two distinct roots there, two different roots, and that then makes it very easy for us to work with the discriminant to see how many roots that we have. So let's just quickly recap what we did. So let's scroll back up. So first of all, what we did was we wrote down our ABCs and we checked to see if we could factorize. We were unable to find a pair of numbers that would allow us to factorize, so we decided we're going to use the formula. The formula has three possible solutions. It is either greater than 0 for the discriminant, equal to 0, or less than 0. If it's greater than 0, we'll get two different answers. If it's equal to 0, we'll get one answer repeated. So it'll be the same number, like x equals 2, x equals 2. And if it's less than 0, is no solutions. And if it comes up no solutions, we stop. So we work out our b squared minus 4ac. Notice how I've written it here. Minus 5 all squared minus 4 times minus 12. We take this and we could write that straight into a calculator if we're using the calculator. And that should give us an answer of 73. So if you're trying with the calculator, try that just now. Otherwise, we can work it out by hand. Minus 5 squared is 25. Minus 4 times minus 12 is 48. Add them together, we get 73. Now, we've checked that our discriminant is not less than 0, so we can actually continue working with the formula. So we substitute in our b squared minus 4ac, and our a. This then gives us a solution, and this solution here is a surd solution and can be quite useful depending on what the question is being asked. So if you're asked to leave your answer as a surd, that is acceptable. Otherwise, you need to continue on and solve down till you get your decimal answer. That's all the time we've got for this week. I hope to see you again on Hacking Maths.